Yo, it's your man with the plan, Mark Solars here to talk about Ys 9. A lot of people don't know that I was really into Ys 8. Ys 8 was one of the Ys that really got me to Ys. I tried a few of the Ys games. I've tried Ys 7. I also tried Ys Origins. I just couldn't get into those two. And then I tried Ys 8, and it really brought my love for this series into fruition. And then I wasn't originally planning to get Ys 9 because the truth be told, Ys is one of those games you need to get the full experience or else you don't really understand what you're working with. And I kind of forgot that because I tried the demo and I wasn't too impressed originally, but I was like, you know what? Screw it. I just got it anyway because I was such a big fan of the previous one. And I gotta say, it really stepped up a few things. There were a few things that did hold it back in some ways compared to the previous entry, but there's a lot of things that this game did that also was a step above from what I saw from the previous game, and it was a lot of fun. And I kind of just want to talk about how I felt about the game and just what you probably should expect if you want to get this game, and should you get this game, and who's it for. So let's start off with the writing. Let's just start with the writing and the characters. So this was the biggest difference between Ys 9 and Ys 8. Ys 9 was written, I felt like a lot of the side characters and all the party members that were side characters were not as interesting in Ys 8. I feel like it was really about Adol, Donna, and like the shipwreck crew as a whole, but there was nobody who really like stood out. That was just like, yeah, I love this character. You know, they have a unique thing they have to going on. You know, there was pretty much, Donna was pretty much like the character that I was really attached to that whole game. And I gotta say, this game's a little different. I gotta say, almost the whole party. I love the whole party. And I gotta say, my favorites in the party so far is Crucia, the white cat, and I've gotta say, the Raging Bull. I really like the Raging Bull. They both were fantastic characters. And I noticed that from Ys 8 that they really stepped up the character game. Like the characters were just so charming. It even made Adol charming. Like since they gave Adol little character voice choices, they do that in the other RPGs. I know the most common one's Persona, that everybody knows that they do give the character voice choices, but you know, not with their voice, but they give them choices to talk. They give you a preset set dialogue choices that the character probably would say because of their personality, they perceive that the character would have, and you kind of say it, and it really brought Adol to life because Adol was always kind of just like that character that didn't really say much, and they're like, oh, why you look like that? Why you have a funky face? And now they kind of gave him this, you know, different looks and different cool dialogue choices, and it really makes him feel alive, and it really helps with how he interacts with the other characters in the story, because he actually feels like a character even though he is supposed to be a silent protagonist. The story, I swear, I just so not too long ago I finished my first saga in the Trials of Story series, whatever, game series. So I played Trials of Cold Steel and I finished that whole series, and a lot of the writing style in this game compared to the previous game is a lot like Trials of Cold Steel. I feel like a lot of those people who worked on the Trials of games helped out the Ys team write the story, because it was just a lot of those moments where you're like, either it was like overwhelming, some of the stuff that happened that was so crazy and overwhelming, while there were some things that you didn't expect that would be a little bit underwhelming. It was overshadowed by the overwhelming stuff. Charles Cole still does that a lot, like, oh, he died, but really there's 3,000 brothers and sisters he has, and they all are coming for you. And they're like, oh shoot, like it's a lot of that, like that back and forth, not expecting writing in this game, I gotta say. And it actually really works. I still think that Ys 8 has a better story, because there's something about the writers writing about. Basically, Ys 8 is a general, without spoiling too much about Ys 8 for those who haven't played it, is barely how many bad things can you do to one person and without them breaking. And that's literally Ys 8's story, in like the most boiled down to the simplest terms. There's one character that you all really care about now, how many times can we mess with them and make them feel like garbage? And I love that. Something about that story is just so charming, because I don't see a lot of those stories in video games. You see it in TV shows sometimes, but it was just like the amount of things that happened to this one character in Ys 8 really was fascinating. Ys 9 has a really fascinating story too, because I love that dark story of people, being the outcasts of society, really being the heroes, and the light of the societies really being the evil villains. I really like that kind of style. Like, they do that in Tales of Berseria, they do that in Persona 5. A lot of modern RPGs have that, like, in the shadows, but really the main heroes kind of thing going on. And I really like that kind of style of storytelling, but I still think Ys 8 beats out the Ys 9's in originality, I gotta say, because Ys 9 just blew me away. Ys 8 blew me away. Ys 9, I really liked it. There were some things I could predict, but there was like, it was cool. It was cool. The dialogue's way better. The writing's so much better than Ys 9, but the premise of Ys 8 was so much cooler to me. But that's what I gotta say for the story. So now, for the gameplay. And this is where it kind of outshines Ys 8 in every single factor. I'm comparing a lot of stuff to Ys 8 because it kind of is still on the same wavelength as Ys 8, so it's the easiest one to compare them to, because Ys 7 was nothing like this, and Ys Origin's nothing like this either. And the combat was so good. It took me a second to get used to it, because I remember some things being a little bit smoother in Ys 8 and a little bit more slippery in Ys 8, but things are a lot more tight. And over time, I really got used to how the game played. Maybe after like 2 or 3 dungeons, compared to Ys 8, it's pretty much exactly the same though for the most part. There's just little tweaks here and there that like keep you from spamming this, or to help you spam some things, and it was really interesting. I really like the extra additional GIF abilities. I think that really like elevated the gameplay, because it was not just like you're mashing a button. It was like, oh, you can like break the game by running up the walls. Like, it kind of reminded me of Breath of the Wild. Like, you could just break certain puzzles. Didn't really matter, because you would kind of cheese it with some of the gift abilities, and it was nice. It was really nice. I really gotta say that. Also liked how I liked how the boss battles went, but I do gotta say they were a little easy to me. Like, I felt like a lot of them, I didn't really truly die to anybody on purpose. Like, I just felt like there was a lot of boss battles, and I was just going through them. I don't think there was anybody I truly died to at all. Even the final boss, I don't think I died to. And I was on hard mode. I was playing the game all the way through in hard mode. So I readily recommend hard mode if you are used to Ys or action combat games, because it's not that hard. I don't know what, because Ys 8 was just right to me, normal. But this game, I feel like I had to up it to hard, which is something I rarely do, because, adding difficulty adds time to your play time, and sometimes I want to just, by the time I go through all the hard parts, I'm kind of ready to finish the game normally. But I really, the combat was a little easy, but it was really fun. It just everything worked together really well. And now that I'm thinking about after combat, I'm thinking about the graphics. And this is where I feel like I haven't looked at Ys 8 in a while, but I think I looked at a few pictures just before I watched this video, or making this video, sorry. And I feel like I like the graphics of Ys 8 a little bit better. I don't know what happened. The in-game cutscene graphics are nice, but it's like as soon as you go to your actual gameplay segments, it feels like I'm playing a PS3 game, and I know that's a common thing across the board. A lot of people feel like Ys 8's graphics were kind of, Ys 9's graphics were kind of, like, it was there, but it was like, it felt like there was missing something. It was missing a lot of color too, on top of it, the art style. So with the weird graphics and a little bit of the art style being kind of dark in this one for the most part, it was very here. It was like, I liked it, and there were some areas where I was just like, oh no, and there were some areas that were like, okay, but there was no like, it didn't help that everything was dark and black too, like I was saying. But for the most part, it was just it passed. Like I see a lot of games from the company that makes this game are always like a generation behind, a generation or two behind. This is normal for them. But I liked it still, regardless of all that. Now, off of that, because I'm remembering this part specifically, the music. The music was just, how to explain this? I feel like the farther I went into the game, the more I liked the music, because I felt like at first it was like very, very, very. I always talk about this in my Charles Code Steel video because it's the same person who makes the music, I think. It's a very whiny guitar. So there's a lot of rock songs in this game, and they have that whiny guitar. And to me, it doesn't sound well. To me, you know, other people probably could sound fine, but I don't really like guitar sound fronts that much because it always sounds kind of whiny to me. In the first few stages of this game had intense whiny guitar songs, and I kind of started blocking it out of my mind for a second. And I'd say about halfway through the game, it went to like the soundtrack felt like it just turned around. Same style of music to some degree, but it also had like it felt like it was like a composer did the first half of the game and a different composer did the last half, and maybe it's the same one, but the music got a lot better, and it actually got to the point where I'm actually looking up some of the later songs. But those earlier songs in the game, I gotta say, were not hitting me at all, which is very rare because I like a lot of music in video games, but that just was not hitting me. So that's kind of how I feel about the music. I feel like as farther you went into the game, it's the whole game in general, actually. I feel like the farther you went into the game, the better it got. Because the very beginning was like, okay, it's okay. It's you know, it's not like East 8, and then you're like, oh, halfway through, you're like, oh, okay, I'm really feeling this. Then about like 3/4 into, you're like, okay, I really like this game. I like the characters, like everything. But it doesn't really start picking up until about 1/4 through the game. To me, personally, like everything I'm talking about kind of came in 1/4 of the game because it was just okay until that point, which honestly I'm okay with. You know, it gave you a nice build up. The next thing I want to talk about, you know what, since I kind of talked about the graphics and I kind of hinted at the art style, I do want to talk a little bit more about the art style. The art style for this game was very interesting because unlike the previous game, the previous game was a lot more, I would say the character designs of Ys are always tame looking to me. They're always very like they have real armor on, or they have, you know, very regal, very like normal clothes on, very not like anime 5 where there's boob windows and all that stuff. But I gotta say, this game has a little different of an art style. It's a lot more, it's still kind of reserved. Everybody still looks like they would wear this stuff out in the streets without getting harassed or anything. But it seems like it's a lot cooler. Like, I love the monstrum designs in this game. Like, all the monstrums, I gotta say, none of them were not hitting. All of them had cool designs. Whoever the character design for this game was, the designer for this game was amazing. And I like how the difference between their normal form and their monstrum form is so drastic, because they really made these people look like regular people when they're not in monstrum form. And it was really fascinating just to see that contrast. Like, oh, this dude looks like in between a specially designed NPC. That's what everybody looks like. It looks like an NPC, but if you were to make them special looking. And like, wow, these people look really normal. Normal hair color, normal looking, you know. I think there's only one of the main cast that actually has a different, like a anime style hair color. And it's just like, wow, everybody looks normal here. And I think that's something too about it too. It just looks, it was just such an interesting way of art style for the characters. But for the main environment around the characters, I gotta say, like I said, the graphics didn't help it a lot. It was interesting because the locations kind of blended together at the very beginning, and then as you went through the game, farther the game, it started to you started to kind of like see some differences, but I still gotta say there's more that melted in my mind together than there was like standouts. There was like a few standouts, but those were like really late in the game where like stuff got really crazy and it makes sense why it's different. But it was like, you know, the Grimald Knox looks a certain way. The city, if you're in the city, everything looks pretty much very similar. If you're in the field, everything looks pretty similar. You know, it's like I felt like there was not much different. There was not a lot to like. There was not a lot much difference in a lot of the stuff I saw there. But I gotta say, overall, this game has been a treat. The voice acting was beautiful. I think they're going to keep these voice actors. I think they're the same ones from Trials of Cold Steel that they use. A lot of these voice actors in English, at least. I don't know what they use for Japanese. And the voice actors in English are amazing. Standouts, have to say, has to be Hawk. The Raging Bull, Erica. She's great as any character she plays. And I have to say, Crucia. She's really good at her character. Everybody else was good too, but those were some standouts. I'd say overall, between all the characters and all the side characters and all the characters that help you, like in your village format, everybody was better in this game. Like a lot of the overall direction that the Yeast game is going into is a lot. I think it's in the right direction. I do think they need to work on their engine a little bit. And in the idea that I like Donna's story a little bit more than this story, it has nothing against the story itself. It's actually, there's not that many. There is one thing about the story I don't like, because they come out the gate with something that you don't fully understand. But outside of that, the story is great, and everybody knows what I'm probably talking about. There's one thing that's really weird, probably when one of the villains is revealed. But other than that, I love this game. I think you should really try this game if you like, hack and slash, RPG, open world type of game, because this game's very open world, something that this series has not really gone into. And I'm really excited to see what they're going next. I think Yeast 10 is going to be a treat. It's Yeast 10, so they're probably going to knock out the park, since it's supposed to be a special one, probably, most likely. So, thank you for watching this video. Hit me a thumbs up and or a thumbs down, doesn't matter which one. It just helps when you guys are watching. Also, hit the little subscribe button, a little bell icon to join the rebellion, because I'm a little bastard, and I need friends. And I'll see you guys in the next video and or streams, and make sure you guys have a damn good one. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.